Okay, hi guys. Kurt Ranowski, Yankee T News. We're still in the game, baby. So yes, a lot of things have been happening in the last week, and I just have to remind you about So anyway, 13th of April, um, the year of our Lord, 2026. And again, Eric is on assignment. I'm having to do this in another location. Don't you like my green screen behind me? Anyway, where to start? There's so many things, so many things. Well, I'll tell you that I did do an op-ed basically describing this for the Islamic Republic of Iran. This would be the beginning of the end, okay? Devastating bombing, and it was devastating. At least I believe so. So quick side point. I don't know if you've been listening to the other broadcasts that I've been doing, but I've been kind of critical and skeptical. And where I am right now is I sort of gauge the reactions of the Iranians. I find myself thinking more along the lines of they've had time to take account of the damage that's been done, and it is far worse, far worse than they would have thought. And so they're, as President Trump has suggested, they have no cards. I would suggest they have maybe a couple of cards, but they're not cards to get excited about. So all that said, the sense is that between the blockade, which just started a few hours ago, to the other work that's got to go with it, and I want to make a point about the process of mine clearing in the strait, to whatever contingencies they have for any kind of lashing out that the Iranians might do, I would say the Americans are in a better position than previously, and the Iranians are in a far worse position than previously. Now, President Trump has said that behind the scenes they're begging for a deal. I'm not sure what begging looks like after what happened in Islamabad on Friday and Saturday. So, all of that said, what I want to treat as the two key points here that'll come out in the next maybe day or two. Actually, 3 points. One is the mines. The U.S. Navy has a lot of incredible technology for mine clearing. How well it works under these conditions remains to be seen, but you can be damn sure the U.S. Navy is going to learn a lot. And the point to consider is what we learn in the Straits of Hormuz for mine clearing may have a role in the Strait of Taiwan. Just saying. So that is going to take some time. You know what? Allow for mistakes. These things could happen. The Iranians lost track of their mines, whether they did it on purpose or not. So we got to go find them, as it turns out. Great. So they're going to launch missiles at us? Are they rapidly building up a swarm of drones to attack us in different ways? We'll see. We know that they've been attacking repeatedly, although at a reduced level. And I will say, I did predict this. That's right. I said that they're going to keep their powder dry and have the ability to strike back to a certain point. But yes, even under those circumstances, they're still going to be limited in terms of what they can do. All right. And so this is going to bring them to a desperate situation. And then the desperate situation is what they're going to do to their own people. All right. So the main point I'd like to put here is that Pahlavi reminded his people, stay home, because the risks are too great. We need to resolve the military situation first. And yes, so I and others, we're constantly scratching our heads. How is the military situation going to get resolved? And it's so part of it might be, for all us armchair experts sitting here, it's what do you focus on first that tells you what to think about. So there have been reports that, going back to January, the Islamic government had used mercenaries from, I believe, Egypt, but Lebanon, and other Arab countries where they don't give a whit about Persian people. So to have them out on the street slaughtering Persians is just like a blood sport, perhaps. Okay, well, those same thugs are apparently still around. And it's only now in the last week that there have been any reports indicating any kind of resistance that's beginning to build that's going to press against these guys. So what is it going to look like? You know, we had one video that showed this drive-by shooting of a couple of guards at a checkpoint. It looks like they took them down. Okay, well, rinse and repeat. I'm sure there are probably hundreds of these checkpoints that have to be attacked. So I guess at the very least, if you can start creating fear and uncertainty in those people who are still supporting the IGRC, maybe you'll see some more defections. Maybe you'll see some things that open up. I'm not sure, because right now, you know, in terms of the information that's in front of me, it just appears very limited. And you know, when Israel kind of blew it with their over promising and under delivering, that has not helped any kind of future projections. So you know, I'm not sure what to think as far as that's concerned. So, but the clear sign is there's pressure, and the circle for the Iranians is becoming smaller and smaller. That is how I see it. Now, that said, there is an ex-CIA analyst who I trust implicitly. His name is Sam Faddis. You see him on the Steve Bannon War Room frequently. And he makes a very clear point. We haven't won. All right? Made progress, but don't think we have won in any sense of the word. And the other part that's kind of annoying here is after all the way the Iranians blew up the talks on Saturday has just, you know, how can you trust them? You can't, if they're going to play these word games, trust them to do it again. Okay, so all we have from them is going to be more blathering, right? The only time it will be if they actually make some serious statements that reflect what we expect of them. Don't expect that anytime soon, because when they do that, that's pretty much the end of them, all right? Something to consider. All right, the hard question here, boots on the ground. Now, President Trump has kind of dropped hints that they have something in mind that's going to kind of be like what they did in Venezuela, as well as the decapitation strike that was done on the first day of the conflict. But what is that going to look like? It's going to be creative. It's going to be different. It's going to be unexpected, okay? So what have we got to work with? All right, yes, I am guilty of trying to put myself in his position and to get a sense. The checkpoints in Ireland? What checkpoints in Ireland? All right, you're going to have to tell me those checkpoints in Ireland, Alan. Yeah, 51, yeah. Now you're dragging in all this other stuff here. Come on, let's stick with the main subject here, which is Iran. All right. So limited military action. Where I come down on this is I have two stupid amateurish strategies to float for you. The first is going to be having several points of invasion, all right? One, I think, is if the Kurds are going to do anything, you got to help them get going. So look for something in the northwest. Balochistan, I don't know, but they're there. They've been fighting. So is there another ground effort to mount there? So when you start to do things like this, that forces the IRGC to start splitting its forces. And I think that's a good thing. But we don't know, right? So that's one. The other thing I've constantly tossed around is the idea that you pick some towns. We need to be reminded we're actually taken over by civilians temporarily. If there was a way to set up shop in one of those towns, then things could get very interesting. Again, just my opinion. So again, just to go over the issue with clearing the mines, there are, you know, the part that gets disturbing here is, yes, we reduced the capabilities of the Iranians for mine laying, but they still have some capability. They could be laying mines as we speak, for all we know. Okay, and it's just wow. And then as far as the blockade goes, The thing that I worry about the most, I'm losing my audience. Oh, the thing that I worry about the most is, again, what forms of deceit will be used by the Iranians and by the Chinese, okay? Because the rule at this point is ships going to the other ports, Bahrain, UAE, and others, they're okay. And we'll let them in and out. Those that want to go to the Iranian ports and the Chinese, not happening. Okay, but how will there be ways in which they could, reflag themselves, change something with a transponder? Who knows? All right, so expect trickery. In the meantime, we have a report that Pakistan is stockpiling drones. So while they're stockpiling drones, we've got suggestions that the Iranians still have the ability to manufacture more of their own drones. Remember, they're the ones who invented the Shahed drone, so it's the basic design. We've had time to plan for it. That's all I can say, so I hope. In the meantime, on my list here of links on the website, yankeet.news, remember to go there, there is a great video. It's a Iranian American who does a quick history of Iran, puts everything in a positive light, except for the Islamic Republic. And he's suggesting that it is possible for Iran to find its way to a democracy. Okay, it's a great link. You got to go check it out. Meantime, there's a report that 60 empty oil tankers are heading to the Gulf of America. So Japan and others are not wasting any time getting oil to make up for losses out of the Strait of Hormuz. So good. And then the other thing that's of concern here, ladies and gentlemen, maybe it's more bluster, but you've had Erdogan of Turkey threatening to invade Israel. If any of you remember the Bible, there was a suggestion that there would be an army from the north that would invade and destroy Israel. Gee, that's got a certain ring to it, just want to say. And then, so let's shift to China. There is the claims, we have at least two claims. Look, first of all, there's a rocket fuel called perchlorate. The Chinese have been sending this to Iran for their ballistic missiles. So they continue to do that. There are other things they've supplied China with. China's supplied Iran with. There's a claim that manpads, okay, a type of shoulder-fired rocket, is being shipped to Iran for use. That's not going to go down well. And what was the other thing? Well, we'll be shipping weapons, and there may be Chinese drones being sent to Iran as well. Now, the other thing that's interesting is while that is being discussed, is that the fact that we've pulled a significant amount of our naval assets away from East Asia, already China is supposedly beginning to deploy more of its ships into the area. What happens when we come back? And, by the way, I just want to mention this other little thing that's been discussed. That is, it's been since, I want to say, 2009, when an American ship transited the Strait of Taiwan in a demonstration of saying, we have the right to go through these waters. Since then, we haven't done it. And so now the talk is it may be time to do it. And it's interesting, this will be done in a run-up to the talks that are supposed to happen between President Trump and Xi in Beijing in May. So how's that going to roll? How's that going to roll? We will see. Okay, meantime, I want to move on to Ukraine. So there's a link here for a wild video, as far as I'm concerned. So I like this Professor Gerdy's guy. He broadcast this this podcast. He did this podcast of two Russians talking with each other about how, you know what, invading Ukraine, I think we screwed up. What? Propagandists saying that? Russian propagandists thinking that a mistake was made when it came to Ukraine? What? No, wait a second. They can't have that. But they went there. So what does this portend? I think there'll be more discussion of that type. Now, what they get away with in this is that they're saying the reason that Russia has not succeeded in Ukraine is because the Russians don't have the desire to win. Well, when you think about the kind of support that the infantry gets, when you think about the kind of strategy that the military planners in Russia have used, yeah, those could be a little demoralizing as far as some notion of victory is concerned, all right? And, there's another point here to consider, just for you to think about. If you have the Russians not try to prosecute this war with all due speed, what are you doing? You're allowing the Ukrainians to develop more and more effective tactics for fighting the Russians, okay? So there is a ton of these videos. Now, one of the things I have to say, I don't understand why I'm not finding these things in the press, but there are tons of videos about the different kinds of progress that Ukraine is making against Russia, whether it's attacking their oil infrastructure, gains on the battlefield, the shifting balance of power on the battlefield, believe it or not. This is a hell of a thing to say. And so they make the case, but I don't know. I don't see it in the New York Times. I don't see it in the Washington Post. I don't see it in the Wall Street Journal. We're not hearing it on CNN or Fox or One America News or Newsmax. What's going on? I don't know. Anyway, so the big, and this is another one. So there's another report about how Ukraine has started to deploy ground robots. This is the stuff of science fiction. This is the stuff that people have been talking about for years and years, all right? And now Ukraine seems to be doing it. This is incredible, just incredible. So you got anything? So our ally Turkey, yeah, I know. Sure, we could remain neutral instead, but Israel pulled back from Iran. Not so. If you're coming tonight, we're going to have to just debate that one. Yeah, I don't know about that one. So here's the thing. Right. First of all, so we got the ground robots, and this. I mean, if they are gearing up, or as they say, manufacturing to scale, ground robots against the soldiers. I mean, we're already seeing how these drones are making a hash out of the Russian troops. Drones and robots on the ground. I can't. It's just wow. I don't know. Come on, folks. There's a point at which the tide of battle shifts in a way that is unmistakable. All right, it's just a matter of time. Unless, so let me throw in a fact. The fact is that President Vladimir Putin called for a 400,000 man mobilization, which over a 6-month period. So that's 6 into 400,000. It's about what, 35,000? Let me think. 6, 40, 35, call it 35,000 a month, okay? Which is about the rate at which the soldiers are being killed. So it's dead even at this point. And now they're going to introduce these robots? I don't know. Anyway, I got to move on to the next thing here. And that is, back here in America, I want to direct your attention to justthenews.com and our friend John Solomon, who has put out a couple of reports recently that do qualify as bombshells. One, which I don't put here, is about how the FBI in August of 2020, okay, had done tabletop exercises for January 6th, okay? They were planning for January 6th at least 4 or 5 months before it happened. So let's talk about manipulation sometime. Meantime, you had the situation when the Democrats tried to impeach President Trump over a phone conversation he had concerning Ukraine. And so now the documents have finally come forth showing how much that the Democrats lied. And it was a lot. All right. Meantime, let me move quickly. I don't have a lot to say about these other things, but I need to draw your attention to them. The links are there. the situation in Ireland is getting bad, all right? How much worse remains to be seen, okay? I don't know if Booger 414 wanted to weigh in on Ireland yet, but yeah, you might. Okay, so this is a Discern report. They're a little bit more harsh than other sources, just to say it, but yeah, the growing sense that the Irish people are being screwed by the so-called elites in Ireland is becoming intense. Intense, all right? Meantime, I need to draw your attention to the fact that we have more information showing now that the EU is getting better at rigging elections. Well, ain't that sweet? EU rigging elections. Whoever would have thunk it? Well, in light of what happened in Hungary a couple of days ago, 78%, as they have it, of the people in Hungary voted, producing a landslide victory. Magyar was his name, and defeated Orban. So how much of that involved influenced by the EU? Stay tuned. We're going to find out. Now, this other one's, all right, Diego Garcia, okay, is a critically important island in the Indian Ocean, which we have used, the American Navy has used for decades in Air Force as a staging area. Our ability to maintain any kind of military presence in that area would be greatly hampered if we did not have Diego Garcia. So the wise ass, who is still the prime minister of UK, that would be Keir Starmer, had tried to basically give the island back to the nation of Mauritius, Chagos Islands. Well, it looks like the British government has stopped him. And so this is a huge embarrassment for Keir Starmer. I say good, and it's a huge victory for us in order to be able to maintain our presence there. Okay, next story. This is so annoying. Okay, liberalism in this nation is getting crazier and crazier with each passing day. So this article suggests that liberal women are on a witch hunt to find conservative women who don't speak up. I can only begin to imagine what that's going to look like. It would be a good thing if it didn't happen around me, because I would not be very nice to those liberal women. Not at all. Meantime, I have been bitching and moaning about Tina Peters, and the bitching and moaning continues. But what I would recommend to you is go to tinapeters.us. They have more videos, more articles, more things for you to read and learn about. Very important, because it's critical. It's also interesting, by the way, that as there's this glacially slow movement towards getting her out of prison. Now comes the announcement that the state of Colorado finally decided to clean up its voter rolls. Well, what do you think Tina Peters is all about? Clean up. I mean, first there is the fraud that was actually conducted, but the basis for the fraud was, quote, dirty voter rolls. Okay, so they're going to clean up the voter rolls and then release her, and then what? That's going to take away from her case or something? I don't get it. Okay. Food additive of the week. You're going to love this one. It's a mouthful. Polydimethyl siloxane. Well, I would highly recommend to the mothers of the world, stop letting your kids eat chicken nuggets at McDonald's, because they are made with polydimethyl siloxane. And I have the usual Wikipedia entry so you can learn more about it. And meantime, I can't quite pronounce this one, but there is a related compound that has found its way into the American food system. And I have a Reddit account of a woman who complained to have had skin problems for years because of this silicone-based compound. So you might want to check that out. And there's a fight going on in Virginia, ladies and gentlemen, a huge fight. Yeah. Basically, and it's similar to what's happening in Connecticut, too. You have the Democrats looking for various ways in which they're able to take away local control, local authority, local representation. And they want to concentrate it, in Virginia's version of a county level or at the state capital level. So the governor, Spamberger, is trying to pull this off. And so there's more on that there for you to read. So that's pretty much it for me for now. And thank you for listening, staying with me, and I will be around. Okay, see you later.